Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everyone. Welcome to East Orange Township. We can do roll call, starting from the back.
Bill Pulaski, Chief of Police.
Krista Hyman, Township Engineer.
Jim Sullivan, Director of Engineering Services.
Dave Chris, Director of Finance.
Jeff Winterbottom, Assistant Manager.
Bob Hart, Township Manager.
Sean Cocaine, Township Solicitor.
Joe Giovanna, Supervisor.
Ashley DePiro, Vice Chair.
Laura Rivera, Supervisor.
Kevin McDevitt, Supervisor.
Dennis DeSanto, Chairman. Welcome to East Orange Township. I'd like to announce that the board met in executive session to discuss matters of litigation and something.
Personnel.
Thanks, appreciate that. You know, I always had a smart mouth when I sat down the other end.
Do I take that over?
You can, yeah, absolutely. Meeting minutes from the special meeting on February 21st and the regular meeting minutes from February 28th, 2023. Would anyone care to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll take that as a motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair DePiro. Second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Supervisor McDevitt. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Citizens to be heard. Any comments from the Board of Supervisors? I have to know why the scouts are here. For the millions of people watching on there are scouts in the back.
Good.
Yeah,
Is this like something for a badge or something?
We are attending a meeting for the Citizenship and Community Merit Badge.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
You're
You
here.
want to take a picture with us? Take a picture. I don't really want to take a picture with you there. Here, we're coming down.
Come on.
I need her coming, that's why I wear the suit.
Face me.
All right.
So good trooper, troop 724. Is that in East Orange or? When do you need that? What's the church called? Presbyterian Church?
No.
There's a couple more.
It's West Norriton.
Oh, you're in West Orange, okay.
We live in East Norriton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
To the better Norristown.
We won't hold that against you.
What time do you guys meet? You guys meet on Thursdays at 7?
Thursday, 7:30.
Thursdays at 7:30. Thanks for coming,
Thank
guys.
you for coming, guys.
Yes.
All right. Back to business. Old business.
Old business. Number 601 on the agenda, amending Chapter 159, residential rental property, licensing and registration fees. I'd like to call on our solicitor, Sean Kilkenny, to review this.
Sure. Right before you, you have Ordinance 601, which amends Chapter 159, which are your residential rental property licensing and registration fees. As you know, the state law basically follows that fees have to approximate the cost of implementation by a municipality for those fees, or else it's an illegal tax per the Pennsylvania Constitution. After talking with Mr. Christ and Mr. Hart, we thought it was appropriate that we go ahead and do that at this time. I don't know if they had anything to add, but there's an ordinance in good form moving forward with that change.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Solicitor. The real changes are in penalties. We lessened them and made them a different process if you don't get your rental license in on time. We really changed the process a little bit, more interactive and communicative with clients or customers or residents,
Landlords.
depending on the situation, yes.
Any questions from the board? All right, would anyone care to make a motion to approve ordinance number 601?
I'll make that in form of a motion.
Thank you Supervisor McDevitt, second.
I'll second.
Thank you Supervisor Gavanis, all in favor? Here, any opposed? Thanks. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Ordinance number 602, amending section 196 with lowering the speed limit on Whitehall Road. Mr. Kilkenny.
Yes, again, we have an ordinance number 602 amending to lower the speed limit on Whitehall Road. This has been, I see Chief Pulaski here, he went ahead and looked at it, I'm sure he's in concurrence. I don't know if you have anything to add, Chief?
Yeah, there have been several studies that have been conducted on Whitehall Road. As you know, Whitehall Road was an aberration. It had previously been a county road, and then it became one of our roads, but the speed limit didn't change. So we're really just trying to bring it into consistent with the town, the rest of the township speed laws, and the studies support the change.
What will the new speed limit be?
30 miles an hour.
And it's currently,
40?
It's 40.
40 in one section and 35 in the other section.
and people currently go 60?
Try to hire.
Nobody in this room. but-
Right. No, I'm not guilty of it. All right, any comments from the board?
Is that the whole length of the Whitehall Road from Township Line to?
Yeah. That was the other anomaly. Part of it was one speed limit, the other part was a different speed.
Right.
I have to ask, why 30 and not 35? If 35 was the lower of the two?
I believe 30 are the township, those are the speed limits for the township roads, or the speed limit for the township roads. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, and also this was done by our transportation engineer who compared it. Also part of the process was dealing with and documenting the complaints of speeds, as you know.
I'm not trying to be argumentative, I'm
Yeah.
trying to think realistically, like no one's gonna go 30 miles an hour on Whitehall Road. It's not gonna happen. So that's wondering if we're setting people up, that's all.
We're hoping we'll follow the law.
I just have to, that's where my train of thought is going. I'm not arguing at all, I'm just trying to rationalize it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just-
My thought with it is if you lower it, they're gonna go higher. So if we lower it to 25, they're gonna go 30. If they go 30, they're gonna go 35. So maybe that's
Don't have to ever go slower on Whitehall Road.
And the purpose of this is obviously not to generate fees, not to generate fines.
Right.
So in terms of setting people up, we're very generous in terms of giving out warnings as opposed to actual moving violations, but we're finding that people tend to exceed the speed limit, and giving us that leeway is helpful in keeping the streets safe.
I got you. Any other comments from the board, questions? All right, would anyone care to make a motion to approve ordinance number 602?
I put that in form of a motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Shapiro, second.
A second.
Thank you, Supervisor Rivera. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Resolution number 2878, zoning hearing board as alternate member appointment. I'd like to call on Mr. Hart to review this resolution, please.
Thank you, Chairwoman, Vice Chair. Before you tonight is the appointment of the zoning hearing board alternate member, Mr. Robert Whaley. Obviously, it's to fill that particular spot, which will include, he will fill remaining term, 3-year term ending December 31st, 2024. If I could ask Mr. Sullivan, who actually does all the zoning hearing board meetings, I know he is familiar with Mr. Whaley, if he can probably add a few more comments.
Yeah, Mr. Whaley's been very involved in the zoning hearing meetings recently. He's been looking to be at least an alternate member of the zoning hearing board for the past 6 months or so. So finally his time to be an excellent volunteer. And right now he looks very happy.
Thank you for volunteering. All right, would anyone care, any comments or questions from the board? All right, would anyone care to make a motion to approve resolution number 2878?
I'll put that in form of a motion.
Thank you, Supervisor Gavanis, second.
I second.
Thank you Supervisor Rivera. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
All right, new business. Authorization to advertise intermunicipal transfer of a liquor license. I'd like to call on the solicitor, Sean Kilkenny, to review this item.
Sure, I know it's been eagerly anticipated, Wawa coming to the former Ray's dining car site on Germantown Pike. Part of their process, as everyone noticed, Wawa in recent times, as well as Royal Farms and other gas stations that have food, go ahead and now are selling liquor, and this is an application for them to go ahead and do so as part of the PLCB process. So it's going to be scheduling a hearing for the April meeting.
All right, any questions from the board? No. Would anyone care to make a motion to approve authorization to advertise intermunicipal transfer of a liquor license to Wawa?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that a formal motion.
Thank you Supervisor McDevitt. Second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you Vice Chair DePiero. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Authorization to advertise massage parlor ordinance. I'd like to call on Township Solicitor Mr. Kilkenny to review this item.
Busy night for me this evening. So our office has worked closely with Chief Pawlowski in getting together an ordinance to hopefully strictly regulate massage parlors to the extent of the law that we can in East Norton Township. While there are many reputable massage parlors and people who provide massage services in East Norton and in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, there have been a lot of occasions where they've been associated with human trafficking, which is a very disturbing trend in society and very difficult to enforce because of that many of the people that are used in the business are frequently moved. So it's very, very problematic to go ahead and for law enforcement. So our office has worked with Chief. Our office a couple of years ago worked on ordinances in Hatboro Borough and Upper Moreland Township, similarly regulating massage parlors because he was interested for their elected boards because it had come to their attention from some of their residents. So here would be a motion to go ahead and advertise that ordinance. I see Chief there if he wanted something to add as well. I know he's been working with Mr. Baumler of our office on that.
So this is a holistic approach to trying to address a problem that is not just in East Norton, but it's countywide, Commonwealth-wide. So this holistic approach looks at protecting the people who work there, protecting the people who go to a massage parlor, and it's just one of several different tools that are being utilized to address these types of violations or potential violations in the East Norton. I consider this to be absolutely essential. I've conferred with my colleagues in Abington and the townships that Mr. Kilkenny just mentioned, and this is a step in addressing this problem. And it's a very vexing problem, so it's not easily addressed.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Will there be like inspections?
It can be. That would be, so there is the code enforcement end of it, and the statute, I should say the ordinance also allows police inspections. So the inspection system has to be worked out, the actual process of the when, the where, the who, but it's, again, one of the tools that helps us in this endeavor. And nobody should take this as any type of implication that there's anything illegal occurring at any massage parlors anywhere. Again, not just in our community, but in the county and the Commonwealth. But it's a problem that crops up and needs to be addressed, and we'd rather address it ahead of time rather than address it after the problem arises.
I think you're getting at the question that I was going to ask, is are we concerned about any risk of drawing unwanted, unfair, unwarranted negative attention to a lot of most likely minority-owned businesses?
I mean, that is a policy question for the Board of Supervisors. I think if you talk to your compatriots in Abington and Upper Moreland and Hatboro, some other big communities as well, they feel like the benefit of cracking down on potential human trafficking outweighs the risks of that.
If I can add to this, it really gives us, as Chief mentioned, really another tool in the toolbox. It requires registration with the township and a background check of their, so it's not, this isn't, I know it initially comes off as draconian to some degree, but it really isn't, but it gives us a tool to say, there are horror stories where you go in to a massage parlor and you maybe feel some way that something wasn't right. You report it, you go back, those people aren't there anymore, there was no documentation, so that's the kind of stuff that we're looking at. Not that there's some rampant problem, but we just want more procedure, more process, more control when it comes to knowing who's doing the work. And by the way, it can be an extremely beneficial massage and therapeutic massage. I don't want to say that there's anything wrong with that. It can be extremely helpful for many people. We just are doing our due diligence around those processes and procedures. So.
It's to make sure that everything's done legally.
Yeah.
It's really. Okay, anyone else? All right, would anyone care to make a motion to approve, to authorize advertisement for the massage parlor ordinance?
I'll put that in the form of motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair DePiero. Second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you Supervisor McDevitt. I got nervous there for a minute. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
So with respect to resolution number 2879, amending Articles of Incorporation of the ENT Industrial Development Authority, or IDA, I would like to call on our Finance Director, David Christ, to review this.
Thank you, Supervisor Rivera. Just by way of background, the board may recall that in 2003, or may not recall, the supervisors at the time formed the East Norton Township Industrial Development Authority, also known as the IDA. The IDA serves as a borrowing conduit between nonprofit entities and local banks. And by serving as this intermediate borrower, the IDA allows banks to offer lower rates to these nonprofits, rates that they wouldn't ordinarily get if they were going for a commercial loan. The current members of the IDA are James Serator, the chairman, Peter Cusimano, John Freeman, George Schools, Robert Hart, Margaret Thomas, and myself serving as the Secretary-Treasurer. In exchange for serving as that borrowing conduit, the IDA gets 2.5 points in cash from each of its borrowings. And then they use that for charitable contributions to township organizations. And over the past years, the IDA has donated to the Township Department Recreation Department, Community Day, to the Police Department, and other school district groups as well. The issue tonight is that the IDA's term expires in 2053. Yes, April 3rd, 2053. Yes, it's 30 years from now, it's some time. The issue is that the bonds that get issued by the IDA typically are 30 years or more. So if we were to issue bonds next year, it would extend beyond the life of the IDA, past 2053, and we'd have a problem on our hands. So what's being proposed is this resolution in front of you. It adopts an amendment to the IDA's Articles of Incorporation that extends its term by another 20 years. So it would continue out to 2073. Again, so that come next year, 2024, if we're in a situation to be able to issue bonds, and it's a 30-year bond, the term of the IDA will allow it to do so. So, as I said, the resolution that's in front of you tonight adopts an amendment to the Articles of Incorporation for the IDA that extends the term for another 20 years. So it extends it from 2053 to 2073. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
If I can add, Mr. Chris told me earlier that he was very concerned that he didn't want to be sitting there in 2053 and not be able to approve anything more. So.
Any questions from the board? All right, would anyone care to make a motion to approve resolution number 2879?
I'll make that the form of motion.
Thank you Supervisor McDevitt. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you Supervisor Gavanis. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, so on your agendas, item C is Historical Advisory Committee appointment, actually tabling until April, and I'm going to ask Mr. Hart to explain.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is really just a timing issue. The appointment will take place next month. We have some communication efforts to make in the rest of this week and later. If this was happening next Tuesday night, everything I'm sure would be fine. It's just a member who's currently on there, that hasn't been there for a long time, hasn't been well. We've heard that this individual is moving away from the committee, but we haven't confirmed it, and that's kind of where we're at now. So stay tuned, we'll have that on for you.
Well, our zoning hearing board member alum, Diana Castle, has graciously volunteered, and she's here tonight, so I just want to publicly thank you for taking on that role in the Historical Advisory Committee when the time comes. Thanks. All right.
Software proposal, Trazer? Sorry, Chief.
I was gonna say, shocking software.
Trazer LLC, and I'll call on the Township Manager, Bob Hart, to explain that.
Thank you, Supervisor. I'm only going to give you a little piece of that, and fortunately, I'm going to give it to our expert in this tech world, Mr. Chris. But I can tell you about
Sounds like a taser. I'm not quite sure.
I just wanted to talk.
That's on the girls in the back.
Really, I just wanted to say about the most joyful 9 months of most of our lives, interviewing software vendors and going through each detail of what they do. It was a fascinating experience. After much work and discussion, we had a group with John Redmond, Eric Myers, Jim Sullivan was there as, I don't know, farm candy. Mr. Chris, Mr. Bob, and Mr. Bob. But after, and in all seriousness, after a lot of work, the decision was to go with this tracer. It will just reform, to make what we do as far as software when it comes to codes and truly fire and just about everything under the sun. So outside of that, Dave, could you tell us the makeup of the software and
To elaborate a little on what I have to say, we are currently using several different applications to serve our needs in the area of code enforcement, fire inspections, rental property permitting, and GIS. And the main product that we're using there has been in place for about the last 20 years. It's been on its last legs for the last 5 years, and we've been through a lot of effort getting it to at least continue working. But during that period, what we realized was while the current software application performs very specific tasks well, it's very limited in its functionality. And over the last several years, the applications we've put in place, we've strived to put in place enterprise-wide systems that where data could be shared across departments, across functionality, so that we didn't have to worry about someone coming in and having to go to a specific department to get a piece of information. As you know, we're not unlike many other municipalities or businesses where decision-making, we take in a lot of information from a lot of different areas. And the Trazer system that we're looking at gives us the ability to implement that type of enterprise-wide system that will allow us to do a lot of data sharing and also automate a lot of functions that we're still doing manually today. So we're anticipating it to be an effective productivity tool for us, besides all of the flash and sizzle things that it does.
now you know why I asked him to elaborate.
It was more exciting than you. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Okay.
I just have one question. For like people that are going to come in and get a permit, will you be able to do it online with this?
Yeah, Supervisor McDevitt, that's a great question, almost like you led into it. One of the components of the system is a online portal that our residents will be able to use. So in addition to being able to apply for permits online, they'll be able to pay for those permits, to check the status, and more probably, but those are the things that I've specifically seen. So yes, there's an online portal portion of it for our residents. So to that extent, yes, it'll be open 24/7 for them.
Right, and that's going to free up a lot of people for even having to come into the township building to get a permit.
Correct. A lot of the permits we issue are small permits, $25, something like that. They'll be in a position to be able to fill it out online, make the payment online, and have it instantly forwarded to the appropriate party in the township.
And my question is a little bit different than that. It involves the township staff we have here now. Usually in my past experience, in my corporate life, when I developed software and presented it to people who were going to use it, and we said it's going to make you more productive, it's going to make things go faster, people always worry that our job's going to be eliminated as a result of this, or it's just going to make people more productive and more efficient.
We aren't in a position to lose people. We run a pretty lean staff for what we get done. What we're hoping and anticipating is that a product like this will enable us to do more and not have to hire additional personnel down the road, but rather make more effective use of the folks that we already have.
Thank you.
Final question, only because you trained me so well as I've been onboarding. And, how are our needs met in terms of security, and do we feel like the product opens us to any of the risks we've had in the past? Or
sure. So it's a cloud-based product, which also will also give us the opportunity to do more of the remote workforce that we've been putting in place recently. It has a number of security provisions built into it. There's also a firewall that's set up between that online data and any of our on-premise data, so we shouldn't have to worry about any of those crossing paths.
Cool, thank you.
All right, any other questions? You got a question?
No.
All right. Would anyone care to make a motion to approve the software proposal?
I'll put that up for a motion.
Thank you, Supervisor Gavanis. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Supervisor Rivera. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
And finally, on tonight's agenda, we have our monthly expenditures for February 28th through March 27th, 2023. And typically, do we invite you to address what's happening this month and what we spend money on? Mr. Chris.
Thank you, Supervisor Rivera. So presented to you tonight are the township expenditures for the month. More specifically, the expenditures from the last board meeting to the day before this current board meetings. And for this period of time, those expenditures have totaled $827,131.62. Our accounts payable expenditures, those are payments for utilities, supplies, services. They totaled $373,393.50. And our payroll expenditures, salaries, wages, taxes, they totaled $453,738.12, again for a grand total of $827,131.62. Township staff is asking for the board's approval of these expenditures, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? All right. I don't have to do we approve the expenditures? All right. Would anyone care to make, thanks, sorry, it's my first day. Would anyone care to make a motion to approve the monthly expenditures?
I will make a motion.
Thank you, Supervisor Rivera. Second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair DePiero. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Manager's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The single holder trash survey that we mentioned a few weeks ago about going out. Prepared, we expected to go out by the end of the week at the latest, maybe a day sooner, in the mail to each resident. It will be on Facebook as well. It will be you can send the card back, or you will be able to go online to put your opinion in as far as the survey goes. per household. That will be, I think we have 45 days, or I forget what we decided on as far as how many days it will be open for.
We were being generous, we were waiting, I think, until.
Yeah, we went back and forth.
45 to 60 days.
Yeah, okay, and then that would be out, we went back and forth for 30 days, 15 days, I mean, we put a lot of effort into it. There will be some information to explain what you're giving your opinion on, and there'll be an email address that says what your, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
You're
There'll be an email address and phone number that if you have questions, you'll be able to call and we can clarify. Wawa, I know we just discussed Wawa.
Quick question on
Yeah,
what you just
sure.
updated us on.
Sure.
What kind of response rate do we expect?
Well, that's interesting. I know our IT, Mr. Chris, deals with our response rates on a lot of our communications. They vary. Some are surprisingly high and some are shockingly low. We hope to get a decent response.
Yeah, I mean, with we're sending it to a captive audience. It's a hot topic currently. We'd expect a return rate anywhere from 5% to 50%, which sounds like a long, a
20%
wide range,
respond
but
and 100% will complain.
Well, that's what I'm trying to assess. Like, do we think this is an issue that touches on a nerve of a vocal minority? Or, you know, is of great interest to a large majority of residents?
And just to elaborate on this, right, we took great pains. The survey consists of a single question.
Yeah.
And it's whether the resident wants the township to expend effort
Yeah.
on exploring the issue. And that's it. Not really whether you're in favor for it or whether you're against it, but do you think the township really should put effort and time into exploring this issue? Yes or no? Mr. Hart.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of feedback prior to it even going out, the survey. And I can tell you, it's, like I said at last meeting, it's back and forth. It's, please, let's go to single hauler trash right away. And get out of my trash. It's my constitutional right. And everything in between. So, honestly, after dealing with this several times, I have no idea where it's going to go. So it really is a fact-finding information for us. And like Mr. Chris said, if it says, if the results say we really want to hear more, then we'll go. We'll get a more detailed and cost and years of a contract and all those different issues that come into a contract for a single hauler. And we'll be able to present that at a meeting and have a conversation. But we don't want to do it if it's 90% one way and 80, you know, so we're really, it's a true fact-finding survey. It's not, we really don't know where it's going to go. So I hope that answers it. Wawa. I know we mentioned Wawa earlier. We had a pre-construction meeting Mr. Sullivan had and Ms. Heimer with Wawa. They, if you recall in the past, you know, we've had a lot of questions. Why is it sitting there? You know, nothing's happening.
They pulled out.
Of course. It's going to be a YMCA. What it was when we said the whole time, so there was a dispute between PennDOT and Montgomery County as far as permits go, dealing with the roads. Scott Contractors of East Martin did the land work. The only thing they didn't finish because they didn't have the permits were the curbing and the aprons, the entrances to get into the site. They just worked out the permit between PennDOT and the county. So Scott has to come in and finish the aprons to get in, basically, into the site. Once that's in, and that could be in next week, they're trying to schedule that. Once that comes in, Wawa has one of their contractors that puts the building in. Then they have a separate contractor that puts the pumps and everything else in. And then they have a third contractor that puts the tanks, the gas tanks, in the ground. So it's scheduled. And they're constantly building Wawas. So, as you know, so their tentative schedule at the pre-con meeting start is May 26th, which I believe is a Friday before Memorial Day, which I don't think anybody's starting there. So I think it would have been safe to say 30th. But that's what they told us this week at the pre-con meeting. So things are moving forward. They have put in all their information. So I have to take them for their word. And I know we're looking for something to happen there.
Well, they're gonna open by July 4th, aren't they? I'm kidding, that's.
Only if we make it required. And lastly, if you've been down the park, and I know I'm going to send some pictures because they just started this week to lay the block for this park and rec multi-purpose building that we have down there. It's all ready, they move. They don't mess around with this, and they know, they've been told, and Jim Sullivan's been told very clearly, very directly, that it needs to be substantially complete by, say, the 18th of June, because we have camp coming. And he's committed to it. And he's committed to every resident of the East Township that it will be substantially ready on June 18th. So, not there's any pressure or anything, but we're very confident we're going to be ready to go. So you'll see a lot of things on Facebook and pictures is what I'm trying to get across of it in development over the next few weeks. And lastly, I know we have New York's here tonight, and I was going to meet with them in case they run out. I was going to mention that we had done a study, Stony Creek and parking and a variety of things, stop signs. We will be we're talking to the board, hopefully for next week if we can work it out weather-wise. And we can go out to the community staff as well, knock on some doors and discuss this, because it's something that if we don't go hands-on and knock on the door, once we're moving with it, we'll get, you didn't tell us, you didn't, So we're gonna, and the New Yorks have volunteered, and I hope they're still volunteering, to help out on that process. But, so stay tuned for more information, but we're hoping for next week.
Yeah, for those who are wondering what he's talking about, the traffic patterns in Pennsbury Village have been a pain point for years. It was that development was designed in the 50s when some people didn't even have cars. Now we have people who have 3 and 4 cars. And it's very congested, and especially when East Orange Middle School is dismissing and the kids are arriving. It's really hard to navigate. We've had, there have been kids that have been almost hit. And the bigger issue is if there's ever an accident, we're never going to be able to get emergency vehicles to that intersection because it's so congested. So we did a traffic study to talk about, do we do parking on one side of the street, or do we? There were a whole bunch of everybody wants a speed bump. So if you pay your taxes by April, if you do it early, April 15th, everybody gets a speed bump who pays their taxes in the township.
Everybody wants a speed bump.
Can't help myself.
Everybody wants a speed bump in front of their neighbors.
In front of their neighbor's house. But anyway, we did this. The traffic study was for Pennsbury Village, and that's the crux of it. So, as Mr. Hart said, more to come. Anything else?
Thank you.
Schedule a meeting. Schedule of dates. So Good Friday, the office here will be closed. That's Friday, April 7th. On Tuesday, April 11th, there will be a zoning hearing board at 7 p.m. So zoning hearing board meeting at 7 p.m. The tax collector will be here on Tuesday, April 18th, and Wednesday, April 19th, starting at 10 a.m. I'm assuming there's no end time here, but I'm assuming her end time will be 4 o'clock, or 3 o'clock, or 2 o'clock. She's going to be here till 2 o'clock that day. Sorry, Sue, I'm trying really hard. And then the Board of Supervisors are meeting on Tuesday, April 18th at 7 p.m. That's our next meeting. And any comments from the board? I know. I see it. Any comments from the board? Okay, citizens be heard. No? Anybody online? Is anybody attending online?
We have a handful of people.
Okay. All right.
Not millions?
Huh?
Not millions?
Not millions.
Tens of thousands.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
All right. While hearing no citizens to be heard, would anyone care to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you Supervisor Cabanas. Second.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you Supervisor McDevitt. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.